My name is Kevin Hines, and in the year 2000, I nearly died by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. I was depressed, I was terribly suicidal, and I thought I was a burden to my family. This was the furthest thing from the truth. I am beautiful, and so are you. Life is the greatest gift we've ever been given or will ever be given. So live it with me, and be here tomorrow and every single day after that. Welcome to the Mental Health Marvels podcast.
There was a surprise at the house, and I'm like, okay, so we go home, and everything's gone. Everything, all the furniture's gone. There's pictures on the floor. You know, there's no front. There was nothing. There's no toys. There's nothing. My sister's gone. My mom is gone. Everyone's gone. And I'm like, where did they go? And he tells me, well, they don't love you anymore.
Hello, Brandi Benson.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, it is so great to have you here on the show. It is an amazing endeavor to be able to hear your story and to share it with the world, and I'm grateful that you're here. Brandi, I want to start all the way back to your childhood. And I want you to get into what led you to get into the military in the first place. So your childhood, the good, the bad, the interesting, the painful. Let's go. Break it down.
All right. So I grew up in California. I was born and raised in Southern California, San Bernardino area. My mother had me at a very, very young age. She was 16, and my father, I believe he was 19 years old when they had me. So I grew up with my parents, young teenagers. They were extremely young. We grew up in the Southern California. Then we moved from Southern California to Oregon. And it was at that time where my biological father was having small little episodes of schizophrenia. So he was schizophrenic. And so he had crazy episodes. So he would think, he would hear things, he would see things, he would taste stuff. And it was getting to a point where my mother wasn't able to handle it too well. So they ended up getting a divorce and, splitting up. So when they split up, my father somehow, I was 6 years old, he somehow talked me into staying with him and going with him to a party at the church. And my mother, she decided that she was going to, they were leaving, they were splitting up, breaking up. She was catching a bus down to, I think it was Northern California, to go stay with my aunt at the time. So they split up, and he tells me, Brandi, you know what? I need you to come to this church event that we're having. Do you want to come with Daddy? And I'm like, yes, of course I want to come with him. I'm a daddy's girl. Of course I want to. So I go with him to this event, and at this event, he ends up hiding me from my mother. So my father ended up talking to the church, and they decided that they wanted to hide me from my mother. The story, why they wanted to do that, it's a different story. But so they decided that it'd be best that I'd stay with my father. He leaves me at the church, at this church party for about 6 days. And I'm calling and I'm calling and I'm calling, and I think that he forgot about me because the party's over, everyone's gone, but I'm still at my pastor's house with their name. I think the girls' names is Sarah and Sasha. So I'm still with them. We're hanging out and stuff. I'm having dinner at their house. I'm taking a bath, but my dad isn't here, and I don't know where he's at, and I don't know why he's gone, and I don't know what's going on. And I keep calling the number, and no one's picking up. So a couple days later, finally he shows up, and I'm like, I run into his arms, and I'm so happy to see him, and I'm crying. I'm like, I thought you forgot about me. He's like, you know what? There's a surprise at the house. And I'm like, okay. So we go home, and everything's gone. Everything, all the furniture's gone. There's pictures on the floor. There's no front. There was nothing. There's no toys. There's nothing. My sister's gone. My mom is gone. Everyone's gone. And I'm like, where did they go? And he tells me, well, they don't love you anymore. They left you. And I start crying, and I'm like, why did they leave? What happened? I just went to a party, but I didn't understand what was happening. So at the time, they were divorcing, or they were They were divorced, and she was leaving. And when she asked me if I wanted to go, she was, thinking that when she does this, that if he takes me away, he's going to give me back. She doesn't think, because at the time he wasn't really doing anything with the family. He wasn't really helping out. He was having some episodes, with, his condition, and he was just not doing too well, and they weren't working out together at all. So when she left, she thought he was going to give me back, but, it didn't happen at all. He decides, because I was the favorite, he decides that he's going to keep me, and he's going to keep me away from my mother and that side, away from them. So when I get home and there's nobody there, I'm really upset and I'm crying and I can't process it and I don't know what's going on, and I'm only 6 years old. And so he's just telling me that my mother doesn't love you anymore, life is different. So we leave from Oregon and we move to his sister's house. And we stay there for about 8 or 9 months. And while we're there, I am going to like 5 different schools, and I get kicked out of every single school because I'm crying all the time. I'm really upset, and every time he leaves me, I think he's going to leave me again, or that there's going to be some sort of surprise, and that, life is going to be different. So I'm really having a hard time, again, processing with this new life and this everything. My mother doesn't love me, my sister's gone, he's the only one who cares about me. So when we get kicked out of all these schools, finally I find a school that's good, and it's called Henry Hawk. And I'm able to talk to my mom, once a week, or I don't know how many times it was, but a little bit. I'm able to talk to her. And the rule is, while I'm on the phone, is I can't tell her where I'm at. I can't tell her where I'm at, whose house I'm at, where I'm, that's the rule. But I'm able to talk to her on the phone. He monitors the call. So one day she tricks me and she says, "Hey, Brandi, how's everything going?" I'm like, "It's fine, I'm happy." And she says, "Well, what school are you at?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm at Henry Hawk." And he's like, "Get off the phone." And I'm like, "Oh no, I did something wrong. What did I do? I didn't tell her where I'm at. I didn't say anything." And so I get off the phone, and they're arguing, and whatever they're doing. But at the time when all that was happening on the back end for my mother, I didn't know she was searching for me. So she was looking for me. She was going to all these different schools, trying to get the paperwork, trying to get somebody to sign off on the paperwork saying that she can come down and come take me away or take me back. But because he's my father, he has rights as well. So if he takes me away from her, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing at all. Well, I guess back then, I'm not quite sure what the rules are now. But so she's looking for me, and she finally finds a judge that allows her to get a sheriff sign and also sign off on the paperwork to come and get me at Henry Hawk. So she shows up to school one day, to Henry Hawk, and I got pulled out by the principal, and they say, "Brandi, your mother's here." And I'm like, "My mother's here? My mom's gone. She doesn't love me. She's not here." And they're like, "Okay, your mom's here." And I'm like, "Is there a little girl with her?" Like, there's no little girl. And I'm like, "Okay, who could it be?" And then I see it's my mom, and I run into her arms, and I'm so happy, and I'm crying, and she has toys with her, and I'm just so thankful that I get to see my mom again. And I'm just, because I've been replaying this entire situation. If I get to see her, what would I do? And I think I'm 8 at the time, and I'm so happy. She's with the sheriff. There's a couple cops. She's with my Uncle Brian, and they come and they take me away at school. And I remember riding in the back of the car with my new toys, and I was really happy. And I asked my mom, "Can I say goodbye to my dad?" And she turns around. She said, "You'll never see him again." "No, you cannot." I'm like, "Okay, all right. Well, that's all right. That's fine." But that happened. 8 years later, he did pass away, and he did die at 36, and they said it was natural causes. And we don't know how he passed away, but he had, mental issues and problems, and some say that he died from a broken heart and all that, but I'm not quite sure. But he did pass away at a very young age. But my mother did take us away because she thought she was protecting us or doing something good for us, because she thought he wasn't being a good provider or, going to raise us well, or, so she wasn't trying to be despiteful, but she was just trying to, cater to us and try to hide us from what he was doing. He was on, drugs and, not too stable mentally. So when she took us away, she thought she was doing something good, but it turned out, not to be so great.
Certainly for him, it broke his heart. It devastated him and left him maybe feeling alone.
Very alone. And at that time too, I wasn't allowed to speak to my that side of the family because of what they did. They hid me away, so I wasn't allowed to talk to him or see him or anything at all. Wasn't supposed to bring it up. So when he passed away in 2000, it was just out of nowhere. We got a call. I think he died on Christmas Day or either Christmas Eve. It was one of those days. But he passed away, and we got a call on the 27th saying that he had been gone for a while. And it was very hard. But
what did that do to you? What did that do to you?
I was really
How old were you, and what did that do to your heart?
I was 16 when that happened, and I was devastated because in 1997, him and I, we had made a pact, and he got my phone number. My aunt gave me my phone number, and she wasn't supposed to. But he had talked her into it, and he's like, listen, this is my baby girl. I really want to talk to her again. Please let me, what's her number? So she gave the phone number to the house. I didn't have, cell numbers. It wasn't my number. So gave the number to the house, and it was in 97. And I had just got out of school, and there was this really high-pitched voice at the end. It was like, hey, Brandi. And I was like, hello? He's like, hey, Brandi, it's your dad. I was like, Dad? Oh, my God. I was like, hey. He's like, I've been looking for you. Where are you guys? Where are you located? Where do you, what's going on? Is everything all right? How's, trying to catch up on 5 years of missing life. And I tell him everything is great. And, he's like, listen, when you turn 18, I want you to come move with me. I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely do that. And I miss him and I love him and I can do that. And I wasn't really happy where I was at because I had a stepdad. He was not very nice to me, So we made a pact that when I was 18, that wherever I was, whatever I was doing, I was going to drop whatever it was and I was going to go move with him and live with him. We can start our friendship over, our relationship over, and I can have a dad and he can have a daughter. And so when he passed away, I was like, God, it was only 2 more years,
Like you lost that chance.
Yeah. Well, we both did, but.
You both did.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that,
Yeah.
Brandi.
Mm-hmm.
Brandi, I want to ask you very specifically what you want to share with the people potentially watching at home, the people potentially watching online, what you went through with your father's mental health and his living with schizophrenia and how that affected you and your family.
Well, I was extremely young. I was about 6 years old when all of this was happening and he was having his episodes. So I didn't really understand what was happening to him. I didn't know why he would be talking to people that weren't there or trying to save, certain people or ditching the car or had these different episodes that he was having. I didn't understand any of it. I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was normal. But as I look back on it, and then as I'm reflecting things and how other people, understood it, I would say that to embrace them, to get them help, and to I don't know, pay attention to what's going on. And just because they're having these issues or they're displaying this type of behavior, there's a reason why. I would say talk to them, ask them what's going on, and be there for them. They need a support system. They're also people too. They're just experiencing a different type of world that we can't see with our eyes. So I would say communication, get them help.
It's a different reality that they're experiencing, but it is their reality.
They see it.
They see it. They feel it.
They do. It's real to them.
It's
so
real to them.
So dismissing it and putting it under the table or claiming them as being crazy or, something's wrong with them. They just need help. If that's medication, if it's talking to somebody, if it's even just listening to them and asking them if they're okay, what's going on with you today? How are you feeling? Communication is key because that could have been a different story. I could have had a dad.
Oh,
that'd have been nice.
That would have been nice. That would have been very nice.
Yeah.
Brandi, I want to switch just for a moment, and I want to talk about Black America, and I want to talk about I'm part Black. I want to talk about our inability sometimes to accept mental illness, mental health, and mental well-being, or mental unwell-being, if that's even a term we can use. I want to talk about how a lot of us look at it as something that doesn't exist, isn't real, and it's all just in our heads. Do you have anything to contribute to that effect?
I think that not only does all three of those, but people are really scared to go to the doctors, right? They're scared to get diagnosed. They're scared, and by the time that they do go to the doctors, it's too late, So I would say caring enough about yourself to explore what is wrong with you or what the issues are, and being okay with what the outcome could potentially be, because that could either save your life, it could save somebody else's life, and just being informed about the resources that are out there, that you don't have to be ashamed, if you have bipolar or you're depressed or you have, general anxiety. I have really bad anxiety. So not being ashamed of what's wrong with you, and getting coping skills and learning how to deal with these issues that are, existing within you.
Or even when one of us enters into a psych unit, and being accepting of that in the family, and not judging us as being abnormal or wrong or bad. And I think that's really crucial for us as a community, the Black community, to say, we've got your back, we are here for you, and you're not in this alone. And if you have a mental illness, we are going to accept that it is legitimate, and not put you in a different space that you don't belong with the rest of us.
Right, because then that makes you not want to go get help. It makes you not want to share your story, or even to open up to anybody and explain what's going on, because you're going to be casted aside and you're going to be different than everybody else. But that's all a part of survivorship. If you're trying to heal yourself, and you're trying to fix whatever, or come to terms, or understand what's going on, you need to be able to have those resources and those outlets, and then to come back to a society that is welcoming. It's very important.
Very important. I want to transition now, Brandi, into your adolescence. You're entering into the military, and what happened to you that nearly took your life, your survivorship, and you're forging onward to try to help other people.
Right.
Break it down.
Okay. So adolescence. I was a very good kid. Played a lot of sports. I was never in trouble. I was a people pleaser. I was a teacher's pet. I was always trying to make sure did whatever I could do was the best. I was a perfectionist. So we'll skip to year 2000. So we had moved from Northern California to Hawaii. Moved to Hawaii out of nowhere. They decided we're going to leave, and I made it on all these teams, and I'm playing all these great sports, and everyone thinks I'm going to go somewhere with these sports. And I go from being, kind of a household name in this little community of mine, in the city of mine in Nevada, California, to uprooting and going to Oahu, California, Oahu, Hawaii, out of nowhere. So we leave, we go there, and this is again, I'm 16 at this time, and my mother is remarried to my stepfather, and things aren't going too well. So when my biological father does pass away, I'm not allowed to go to I don't know why. I don't know if I wasn't allowed to go to the funeral. I'm not quite sure if we didn't have the money for it, but I don't go to my father's funeral. I don't know exactly why. I'm pretty sure we didn't have the cash, and I didn't know I still had an existing relationship with that side of the family, because I wasn't allowed to speak to anybody. So I didn't reach out and ask if someone could pay for a flight back. So I missed the funeral, and it's at that time where my mother and stepfather, their marriage starts to fall apart. So things become really shaky. He ends up leaving my mother, and he leaves her with 3 dogs, 2 kids, all the bills in the house. Leaves her with everything, and he just leaves. I not sure why he did that. It was poor timing, but he decides he's gonna leave. I think it was like a year and a half later. So he leaves, my mom with everything, and my mom's having a hard time paying all the bills, and electricity's getting turned off, and the dogs don't have anything to eat, and there's parties at the house, and my mom just slowly, she goes from a really strong parent to, she's slowly like she's crying all the time. She's depressed. She doesn't know how to fix these issues. She's supposed to be our mother. I have a younger sister as well. She's supposed to be our mother, and she's supposed to, be the pillar of the family right now, and she can't keep it together. So she's depressed, and she's having financial issues. So I have to start working, and I'm 18, so I have to start working, and we need fast money. So I decided I'm gonna go work at a club, and so working at the club, I'm a cocktail waitress, and I'm getting kind of good money, but all the money that I make, I have to give it to her. And my sister, because my father had passed away, she's also getting some sort of Social Security, so she's getting like $800 a week, and instead of being able to spend the money like we were before, she has to now use that money to pay rent. So my sister's giving up her Social Security money to also help pay the bills, and I'm trying to fork over a little bit of cash, a little bit of money that I have. And I remember there was one time that we were so poor, and so we didn't have any money, that we had to rob a vacant house, and we knew the house was no longer. Nobody was at. There wasn't anybody in there, but there was food, there was a microwave, there was blankets, there was dog food. So we all went in there and we took all the food. They had so much turkey in this place. They had ground turkey. They had turkey bacon. They had turkey things that look like turkey steak. So there was just not whoever it was, but the person that used to live there. Lots of turkey. They
Clearly like turkey.
Clearly loved turkey. So there was just tons of turkey. There was lots of dog food. We took towels and blankets and laundry detergent and soap and just the vital things you need for every day to live. So we just took all of it. We brought it over to the house, and we lived like kings and queens that day. It was great. I think we had our first hot meal. The dogs had dog food. And it was hard that and it's a shame that we had to do that, but we had to survive. We had to do something. We were at first living off of MREs for a while. We lived right outside of a back gate of K-Bay, Kaneohe Bay Marine Corps Base, and we knew some people in the military, so they would come and drop off MREs. So we were eating MREs for months straight. We ran out of those, and they couldn't give us that anymore, so we did what we had to do so we could survive.
Yeah, and for for the individuals watching who don't know what an MRE is, can you tell us what that is?
An MRE is a meal ready to eat, and it's a military meal. So the Army, or the military rather, when they go out on deployments or they go out on missions, they have these meals that they're ready to eat. There's kind of like a canned food. So there's different meals. There's raviolis. There's all different types of meals in these little boxes that are kind of called MREs. And you open up the pouch, you put water in it, and it kind of cooks it up, kind of like camping food. It's basically what it is. And we lived off of that for a really long time.
Fair enough. And that was your adolescence. That was your life for some time. And then what was the transition to lead you into enlisting in the military?
So I decided that this is not the life that I want to live, and I want to also be able to help my mother out and do something with my life. I want to go to college. I want to play these sports. I want to, have some sort of normalcy to my life again. And the only thing I can think about is joining the military. So not only will I have an income, but I'll have them pay for school. I can help my mom out if she needs something. I can, move forward in my life and leave that bad part behind. So I decided to join the military. And I'm there for, we'll say, after basic training, after AIT, I get to my regular unit, and I'm there for 1 month and 9 days. And as soon as I get there, they tell me that I'm getting attached to a unit that's going to be deployed. and I just graduated from basic training. So I don't know how to fight for a country, I have to cram everything I just learned from AIT and basic and like apply it to real life scenarios. So I am so scared. I'm only 23 years old. Like, I can't believe this is my first duty station and now I have to go to war. I'm like, this just can't be. And they're like, yeah, and you're going to Fob Echo. And I'm like, where is that? And the internet, YouTube. So I YouTube it and I see that this place gets hit all the time. There's people dying left and right. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that I did this to myself. And my sister, she was also deployed, but she goes to a different place. She goes to this place called Balad in Iraq. They have swimming pools. They have McDonald's. They have Burger King. They have a little mall. They have places where you can get your nails and your feet done. And she's on the Air Force base. And I'm like, of course, I have to go to a place where there's nothing. People are like living in little camps and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. But so I do a bunch of research on the place that I'm going to. And I find out that it's a hot spot where people get mortared all the time. It was all over the internet. So I kind of like am freaking myself out, but I'm preparing myself mentally for this war that I have to go in, because more than likely I might have to get in a firefight, or, some insurgent might happen. Like something crazy might go down. So I'm preparing myself for it. And after all of our training's over and we get all our vaccines, I leave from Fort Carson to Fob Echo, and we get there, and it's about a month and a half into being deployed that we finally get hit with some mortars. And I remember we were we were all standing in line getting our food, and we hear this really loud boom noise, and it's like the movies, how the noise is just so like you see an explosion and everything shakes around and it's really loud. It's exactly the same. The floor is shaking, everybody stops, and we're looking around and everything's quiet, or it seems like it's quiet, and everyone's looking around and we're like, oh no. And then another boom happens, and I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. This, we're getting attacked. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I'm so scared, that I leave my weapon. You're not supposed to do that. But I was just petrified. I didn't know what to do. So I leave and I run out. And I run out to the pitch black, and there's these bunkers, these T-walls and these bunkers where you're supposed to go and, hide in when you're getting attacked. And I go in there and I sit in there and I'm like thinking to myself, I can't believe I did this to myself. I should have just went to school. I should have stayed in college. What was I thinking? This is not for me. And I just stay in there, and a couple of weeks later we get hit again, and a girl gets hit in her neck, and just crazy stuff was happening. But throughout that time, I was under a lot of stress. Every day I was scared, when the next attack was going to happen. There was another one that happened when I was in the shower. Terrible place to get mortared, or something like that happened. I was in the shower, had soap in my hair, and I hear it was in like a containerized shower, so it's like shaking around. It's not a real shower. It's moving around. We call them a chew. So it's shaking around. It's moving around, and the ground is, you can hear the bombs being dropped. And my roommate comes running up the steps, and she's like, Brandi, we're getting hit right now. And I'm like, oh my God, I have soap in my hair. I have a towel on, So then I run out, and we go back to the bunker, and I'm sitting in the bunker with the towel on, and I'm naked. And I'm thinking, why did I do this? This is not what I wanted to happen, but I signed up for it. This is, it comes with the territory. I was not ready at all. And then during that time was also when I had the forming of the rare cancer in my leg.
And so you've been at war. You're at a place that is, for most people who don't understand it, terrifying, petrifying, no matter who you are or what life you've lived. And you form Ewing Sarcoma cancer, and it forms in your left leg, by the groin area.
Yes.
Can you tell me, first of all, what is that cancer, and what did that mean for you? And can you break down how they got you to find out about that cancer and what that led to, the medical center, and your eventual recovery.
So I had Ewing Sarcoma cancer, which took approximately a month and a half to form in my leg. It is a bone cancer, but it didn't get to the bone. So it's a soft tissue cancer that happened. But if you let it go long enough, it reaches to the bone. But because, I had people on me telling me something's wrong, something's not right, you need to go to the doctors. And then I was also extremely tired. I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to these people. Thank God I did, because it probably went to the bone, and it's really hard to cure when it gets there. So it usually starts off wherever it's going to be at, but then it gets to the bone. Mine was localized, and it didn't metastasize at all. So I had Ewing Sarcoma, which is a very rare and aggressive cancer. Not a lot of people live from it. And it's a cancer that little Caucasian boys get. So like 14 and younger. Right. So how did I get it? I'm not even sure. I don't know what God's plan is, but I got that. And yeah, and that's also a reason why I was in denial for a long time with that. When they told me I had it, I'm like, how can I have that? I have black in me, my mom is white, yes, but I'm not a boy, right. So I'm not quite, and I'm not 14, I'm not a little kid. So it's just, I didn't fit the statistics of what it says that I should be looking like and who I should be and how old. So having that just threw me for a loop for there. So I get diagnosed with the cancer. I am transferred from Baghdad to Germany. And in Germany, they tell me that it's cancer. And again, they think it might be Ewing sarcoma, or it might be nerve sheath tumor. And the doctor, I remember him telling that he hopes and he prays that it's not Ewing's, because with Ewing's, you have to amputate a leg or a limb or wherever it's going to be at. And Ewing's, it will be in a long bone. So it's either in your arm, it's either in your leg, or it's on your hip. So it's in one of those places. And it also goes from your, from whatever the initial site, it will go to your brainstem, your lungs, and your spinal cord. So I was like, God, I hope I don't have that either. I don't want that. And so when they tell me that they think it's a nerve sheath tumor, so I do some research on that, and I'm like, okay, so I guess it's going to be a nerve sheath. And if that's what it is, according to that, they say they can scrape it off the nerves and stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, that might be a better bet than the Ewings that they don't want me to have. So after they take that biopsy, I am sent to Walter Reed, and I'm at Walter Reed for a while. And they tell me they have to get a new sample because the old cells, they've died off. They can't get it has to be a proper testing done at that facility to tell me what I have exactly. So I do that, and I'm thinking the whole time that I have a nerve sheath tumor, not the Ewing's. I'm like, okay. And so by this time, they've been, giving me biopsies here and messing around with the tumor, and it gets really large, like the size of a watermelon, a small watermelon. It's pretty big. And I can't extend my leg out because it's pushing on my main artery. I can't put any weight on it because my foot is numb. And it's just huge, and it's really messing with my leg, and I can't extend it or move around. My mobility is deteriorating with that. So I'm getting wheeled around in a wheelchair because I can't put any weight on my leg. So they take a biopsy of it, and then they come back and they tell me that it's Ewing sarcoma. And I'm like, what? Like, it's Ewing sarcoma. And so then they start preparing me for death, basically. They come in. I have a priest that comes in like every single day for a while. Every day he wants to make sure that my will is up to date, that everything I have on my will is correct, and that the people, when I do pass away, that they're going to get whatever it is I have down on there. I didn't have much. I was only 24. So the priest comes in with this huge cross. Like, his cross is so big and it's heavy. It's probably like this big, this wide. And we tie it up with some string that you would put with a balloon. The string from balloon, like wrap it up a couple times, and I hang it from my bed. and he prays over it and he blesses it and stuff. And so maybe that also helped out a little bit and saved me. But so he's, you know, constantly coming in and out. And I remember, so at the time I was married to this guy, and the nurses would come in and be like, you know what, maybe you should change your will around. Like, don't leave him anything, you know, because he was, you know, he wasn't being the best guy to me at the time. And everybody could see it. And I was just so blind because I'm sick and I'm, you know, my life is just out of my control, or that's how I feel. So I'm not really paying attention to what he's doing or how he's acting or how he's communicating with people. And so everyone's telling me that, you know what, you need to take him off of there. You know, he does not need to be on there. And eventually I ended up taking him off and doing that. But the priest kept coming in. So then finally they realized that I'm not going to pass away. I'm not going to die. So they stopped coming in so much. So instead of them coming in every other day, you know, maybe it's once a week now, maybe it's every 2 weeks, maybe now it's once a month, maybe it's, you know, every 3 months. So then they just come and pop their head in, hey, you still there? And I'm like, I'm still here, you know, I'm still alive, you know, I don't think I'm going anywhere. But yeah, so
you were starting to heal.
Yes, I was finally, after I had started the chemotherapy, we figured out exactly what type of cancer it was, and it was indeed Ewing Sarcoma. And they were going to do a limb sparing surgery. They're going to keep my leg. I wasn't going to have to lose it, which I was very happy about. Yeah, I was very sad. I thought I was going to have to, say goodbye. So they do all that, and I do chemotherapy, and the chemo is responding really well to the treatment. And they weren't sure because Ewing's, like, a lot of people don't have it. So they're not sure if the regimen they're giving me, if it's even going to respond. So they're like, listen, we're going to put you on this trial. And they put me on kind of like it's like an experiment. They wanted to see if it was going to work. They weren't even sure. So I was like, okay, so like, we're going to put you on this medication and we're going to see what's going to happen. I'm like, all right. So I do chemotherapy 5 days on, 8 days off, 5 days on, 8 days off, 5 days on, 8 days off. I do about at least 100 rounds of chemo by the time I'm finished and done with it. Do chemotherapy 1 million times. I do, I have my adductor muscle is removed. I have to learn how to walk again. I have 7 surgeries on my leg. And it was just a crazy time. And I just didn't want to believe that I was going to pass away, or that, you know, that this was really going to happen to me. So I did everything I could that would keep me alive. You know, I went and bought a car. And it's kind of, now that I look back on it, it's like, what kind of salesperson was that? That's kind of crazy.
But you had faith in yourself.
I did not want to give up on, and I think that's the biggest thing, to believe in yourself and have faith in yourself and not give up on yourself. Just because somebody else says something doesn't mean that you have to go with whatever they're putting in the title, you know, because they wrote me off. They said I was going to die, and I did not want to die at all. So I kept a journal, and the journal was to have something left for my nephew so he could remember me by, because he was so young. You know, he could barely talk. He's not going to remember me. I just didn't know what was going to happen. So I kept a journal so he would see our interactions. And, you know, I did love you, and I was here, and this is how I was, and this is my handwriting, and these are the moments we shared, and this is what we did together. And then after I realized, and the priest realized, that I'm not going to pass away, I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to change this into a book if I get to live. If by the end of this and I'm done and I'm finished, I'm going to change this into a book. So that's what I did. And thank God I did, because I kind of made like a little segment for my book that I published. And I was interviewing my nephew, and I was like, do you remember when I was in the hospital? He's like, yeah, but I barely remember anything. And I'm like, I knew it. I knew you weren't going to remember anything. He was too little.
Yeah.
He was too young.
And has he read the book?
He hasn't read the book.
He hasn't read the book. And how old is he now?
He'll be 13 this year.
He'll be 13.
Yeah.
But when he reads the book, it will change his perspective.
Yeah. He's all in it.
It'll open his eyes,
yeah.
and he's all in the book.
Yes.
I want to ask you a question about a particular person in the book.
Okay.
I want to ask you about Sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about Sweet, because that moment touched me. And before I ask you about Sweet, Brandi, in the book, in the opening few pages, you said that cancer is like an aimless bullet with nobody's name on it, that nobody wants to have. Can you break that quote down, because that hit me, and it moved me to the core, and I want you to break down that small moment in the book.
It means that anybody, anytime, you could be the richest person, you could be the poorest person, you could be the happiest person, you could be the healthiest person, and that doesn't define you at that moment. That at any time you could be, your health could be at risk, your family could be taken away, that something traumatic and dramatic could shape your life so much, and you never know when it's going to happen. You know, it's going to come up right out of the blue, but you got to be ready for it, and you have to be willing and believe in yourself enough and invested in yourself that you won't give up when times are hard. You know,
so that aimless bullet that might be coming for you, that nobody's prepared for,
right?
You better be ready to fight anytime. Okay, Brandi, there was a piece in the book that touched me about a woman named Sweet. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, Sweet. So Sweet, she was sweet. She was a nice lady. She was one of the cancer patients that came to me right when I got on the ward. So I had to go get a chest x-ray, and that's because the Ewing Sarcoma, it comes to your chest. It will affect the lungs. So I was going in for a chest x-ray, and I was in a wheelchair. She was in a wheelchair. She was bald. She looked really sick. She was very weak. And I remember sitting next to her, and I was crying so hard because I just knew I was going to die. This is it for me. And I was crying, and she was there. And she asked me what was wrong, and I told her what's wrong. And she says to me, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. I'm like, I feel kind of hopeful. I feel, thank you, it's going to be all right. Don't get lost in my clouds of depression. Everything's going to be okay, think positive. So I go in there and do my chest x-ray, and then I get my port in my arm. And that night, I go to sleep, and I wake up, and there was a nurse who's like sweeping up, the little areas in my room, and she's sniffling really hard. And my mom asked her, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And she's like, "Oh, you didn't hear what happened?" I'm like, "No, we didn't hear." She's like, "The commotion last night, you didn't hear what happened?" I'm like, "We didn't hear nothing at all." She's like, "Sweet died." I was like, "She died?" She's like, "Yeah, she passed away." We're like, "Well, what happened? What happened? Why'd she die?" And she was like, "She has cancer." I was like, oh my God. And my mom was like rubbing my back, telling me everything's going to be okay, Brandi. Don't worry. Don't listen to that. You're different. It's going to be okay. So that happened often. There were many, 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 many people on my ward that we originally got on the ward with. When I originally got on the ward, there was about 12 cancer patients. By the time it was over and done, I was the only one that lived. Wow. Every single person died. And then when you're in there, you have a different room. So I started off at 70-10, and then you go to a bigger room. You go to a bigger room. You go to a bigger room. By the end of it, it's like your seniority kind of. The bigger room means you've been there longer. And it was 70-31 was the biggest room that I was in. I was like, oh my God, this is it. I've made it all the way to this maze. This is the end part. This is where everything, this is where I'm gonna be. This is my last stop. But it wasn't. I got to live, but everybody passed away in there. But 731, we did have some good memories in there. My mother and I remember we were watching some journalist, and he was doing these really strange, like awkward poses and like giving the story about different things. There was one part where he was like kneeling down, and he had his hand on his hip, and he was, we were just like mimicking him and laughing. And I remember we were laughing so hard and being so loud that the nurse would come in and be like, "Hey guys, you have to stop. There's other people. Shh, be quiet." We're like, "Sorry, okay, all right, we got it. We'll be quiet." But we had good memories. Donovan was in there having a good time with the little clowns that would come in, and the American Cross people would come in, and they would give us little boards. And I remember there were a different couple of times they would come in, and they gave me crossword puzzles. And I knew one of my nurses, I don't remember her name, but she loved crossword puzzles. So I would get extra ones so she wouldn't have to go pay and buy any. So I would, I'd be like, what, yesterday I'd like to get 3 more. So I'd give me some puzzle books, and she'd come in, she'd be like, Brandi, do you have anything for me? I sure do. And I'd give her the puzzle books. I'd be like, here you go. And I'd give like little snacks to people, but I had good memories.
So
they weren't all bad.
As I always say, giving is the true receiving. And even though you were going through hell in everything that you were enduring, you were giving back. So that's a beautiful lesson to be learned by everyone watching right now. Brandi, my last question to you, my last inquiry is about the young blonde lady with the blue eyes. Amanda.
Yes.
That's right, Amanda. Tell me about Amanda.
Her name is Amanda Fields, I believe. And it was my last day there. So I don't have any hair. I've gone through it all. I have finally, this is the day I've been waiting for. I've made my 17 cycles. I'm alive. I'm leaving that as 770, 31. This is going to be a great day. And I find out that there's a lady who is a school teacher, and she has breast cancer, and she had just got checked in. So I decided I'm going to go see how she is. And that's what I would do. I finally realized when other cancer patients would come up to me and try to talk to me, at first I kind of shunned them away because I was scared. I'm looking my future or death right in the face, and I kind of don't want to accept that right now. So I ended up being the exact same people that were trying to support me. So I came to her room and I spoke to her, and she was in my original room that I started out in. It's where everybody, the small little room, 70-10. She was in that room, and I was sitting down and I was talking to her, and she was just telling me how scared she was, and she doesn't know if she's going to be here for her 2 kids and her husband, and just her hopes and her fears and what to expect. And I was just telling her that everything's going to be okay. Watch the law of attraction. Tell yourself good thoughts, be positive, be optimistic, and you have to see yourself as being healthy and being well, and surround yourself with people who also think that about you, so you can feel good about what's happening. And yes, this is a part in your life, but it doesn't mean it has to be your whole story, and it doesn't have to end this story for you. So you don't have to be a victim. You can come out of it. So I just try to be a little encouraging to her and tell her that everything's going to be okay. But I haven't talked to her since.
But you showed her not to be a victim. You empowered her, and whatever happened to her afterward,
I'm not sure.
We don't know. Yeah. But at least you did that, and so many people in that hospital did that for you.
They did.
Can you briefly talk about the medical center you were at?
Right, I was at Walter Reed Medical Center, and it was amazing. I had the best care. I had a great support system. I ended up being friends with every single nurse and staff member and doctor in it, because I was in there for so long. I was an inpatient for about 9 months. So I slept in the hospital, woke up in the hospital, everything was in the hospital. So I made great friends, and I still talk to the nurses till today.
Brandi Benson, you survived cancer, and when you did, you said you felt like a hero. Tell me what that means to you right now.
I survived the biggest mental game that you could ever think of. The statistics were against me. I had a very rare cancer that I shouldn't have had according to statistics. And but my fight and my will to live and my willingness not to give up on myself, I felt like I'm my own hero. I didn't give up. I didn't listen to what anybody else had to say or what was trying to kill me. I overcame it. I overcame the obstacles. There was many points where I had to get blood transfusions. There were times where I would pass out, and I know I could feel like it was happening, and I didn't know how I could stay here. Like I could feel myself leaving out. I don't know if it was my spirit trying to leave, or maybe, I'm not quite sure, but I could feel like something in me was trying to disappear, and I'd pass out, and I'd need the blood transfusions, and I just, there's a couple times on the operating table that I flatlined because he cut my main artery in my leg. There was just a bunch of things, but I wasn't ready to go. I wanted to continue my story, to continue on with life. And I just feel like I'm my own hero. I saved myself, and a new person was born. I'm a much better person since having cancer, for sure.
Brandi, you are here. You are supposed to be here.
Yes.
We are glad you're here. We love that you're here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
And your efforts to change the lives of others.
Thank you so much.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right.
Yes.
There it is.